Yo, it's Trickster TPS. Check out my interview on Classic Burners. Peace.
Welcome to Classic Burners. On today's episode, we're going to be featuring the West Side's King, Trixter, one of the production and DJ masters, on this episode of Classic Burners, so don't miss it. But it's an honor having you. Welcome to the podcast, Trixter.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me, for real, Skill.
All right, this is going to be fun. It's a real treat for me because we've never really sat down and talked about all your history.
Nah, never.
So let's go into the very beginning because, you know, one thing we like to talk about is how you even found out about hip-hop and graffiti and all that. So let's start there.
Yeah. So I'm a kid growing up in West LA. My grandparents actually had an Italian restaurant in Westwood. So that was kind of my hangout. When I was like 10 years old, I even worked at the restaurant for a little spell after that. But so I'm really into skateboarding. I was, just skating around Westwood and really didn't have any knowledge of graffiti at all. And I saw a few tags around the neighborhood that really stood out to me. And one of them was a Shem tag. This dude from X-Men, I actually just talked to Keo to confirm this because I didn't know that he was from X-Men.
The punk rock guy from Hollywood.
Exactly, bro. He had these like fat cap tags that were like crossover M's with the curl on the, like they were ill. For LA, it was something different and it really stood out to me. And then just like, you know, coming up in West LA, I would notice a lot of streak tags around this dude Aloe and Abide, NBC crew, the homie Back that I met later, Seth. And yeah, man, I really didn't know much about it, but it was on my radar. I was intrigued by it a little bit just because I saw, like, you know, it really stood out in my brain. And so I had an older sister, and she would have a lot of friends over. And some of those friends were graffiti writers. And to kind of set the stage and let you know what kind of household, it was like single mom, you know, not much supervision. So our house sort of became this like hub. It was a party house, you know. All the homies would come over, smoke a little weed in the back or, you know, bring a 40 and just chill. A lot of homies brought their black books. And I'm only like 2.5 years younger than my sister. So there was a little age gap. And at that time, it's kind of a big age gap. So I really looked up to these guys. And so at the time, my sister was dating Vane, Evidence, and
from Dilated People.
Yeah, from Dilated. And he would bring his black books over to the crib. And I opened them, and it honestly blew my mind. Like, some of the pieces in there were, like, even to this day, like, it blew my mind. Because he was in a crew called Effects. So it wasn't just him in the book. It was Express, his other homies, this dude Sergio that wrote Do, and the homie Lens, Tao. And I really was tripping on the techniques in these black books. So they used the Cornor pens, the rapidographs and frisket paper and the design markers and like how they bled and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Putting the bleed page.
They were piece book technicians.
Yeah, like for real.
So now let me take a pause here, Trix. I don't mean to cut you off, but I've been wanting to do this. So here's an example Trixter brought in of like an old piece book.
Yeah.
And now, so piece books were kind of not only were they blueprints and places to practice, but in some cases, guys would really deck out their books and put like really, you know, intricate drawings, you know, and work with markers and get blends. And like he said, using the Kohinoor refillable pens that were like technical pens for architects and stuff.
Yeah,
rapidographs.
Yeah.
Things like that. So, you know, just wanted to flash a few examples of like a well-done piece book, you know.
It's a Mr. Magic piece.
So it's like a miniature little, like a wall almost, like you could practice or just draw. And people would, they're like little rolling galleries. People would exchange them and do pieces for one another, and you'd collect pieces from your favorite writers. If you can get them to do it.
Or sometimes you wouldn't get your book back.
Or sometimes you won't get your book back because back then there was, you know, lazy people, disfocused people that would just like lend out your book or something.
You want to be careful who you hand it to.
You had to be careful.
And you got to give them like a time limit.
You give them a time limit. You learn those things later on, right? After you lose a few books.
Yeah. But we were heavy into the books, you know, and like I feel like it was really kind of a thing that it was taught to me that you really had to get good in the book before you even step to the wall. Like, in a sense. Like you couldn't just go do your shit at the yard. I mean, so whatever. I kind of spent a few years as a book nerd, you know, just kind of drawing in my room. I'm 10, 11, you know. I was really into records at an early age. My mom gave me a record collection. And so all those album covers from, you know, think about like the 70s. And my mom was like a hippie. So she had like, you know,
Janis Joplin. I mean, Jimi Hendrix, all that.
Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Marvin Gaye, Bob Marley. Like I was like, Mom, you got
Doobie
Bob Marley,
Brothers, all that kind of
stuff. Yeah, all that shit. Like even like some of the harder rock stuff, like you know. But I'm a kid that's into skating, so I kind of was more into punk rock, and you know, like that classic rock was my shit. Like you said, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, all that stuff. And I was really trying to copy some of the album logos and also the actual decks of the skateboards. You know, I was riding a Nodis or Eric Dressen or whatever it was at the time.
Album art was an important part of you know, influencing graffiti writers.
And so were the skateboards. Yeah, I feel like at the time, even the clothing lines at the time, TNC Surf, all that stuff kind of
had grimy characters and stuff.
Yeah, just dope like characters, like you said, yeah.
Like what was that one that had a hand with like a mouth on his framing and all that?
Yeah. Slime ball, something like that. Just like the Power Peralta, the Tony Hawks, all that stuff. Like I would try to draw that skull and stuff, and just, you know, all that stuff really kind of played a part in just like my gravitation to like the graphics, you know, like the art. And it really helped that my mom was an artist. So my mom had piece books laying around the house. They weren't piece books, but they were sketchbooks, and she would have some sketchbooks that were available to me at a young age.
What style would she draw?
She was a painter, and she also sculpted. So she would kind of do
realism.
Well, she did like some portraits, some abstract, but really the sketchbooks were kind of like ideation for the sculptures. And then early on, she, you know, my mom was single. She met someone, and he was an artist, and his name's Tully Summers. He's a badass creature designer, effects, and he does all that. Yeah, so that dude coming into my life at, you know, an early age, before the age of 12, was a big impact too. Oh, yeah. So I had a creative household, you know. Cool, right my sister played the piano.
Fresh.
I played the drums.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? Before I even picked up a turntable.
Right on.
I was playing the drums.
So you had a feel for the beat.
Yeah, dude. It was in my heart. Like, I really love that shit. Like, you know, we'll get into that later. But so all this stuff started kind of just bubbling. And like I said, my house was like the spot. So I would meet writers like, you know, Vane's whole crew, but also like Spun and Blue from TRM were around, and the Doobie Brother homies that were just kind of like, some of them were writers, some of them were, you know, we all had homies that were DJs or whatever. We were just all involved and really excited about this culture that was kind of unraveling, you know, the early 90s. And so one day I'm just sitting in my room doing a black book, and I think I was bumping a Daily Operation from Gangstar, right? It was like my shit I would play on repeat. And who comes waltzing through my backyard? It's JoJo and DJ AM. And they're coming to visit my sister. You know what I mean? And he peeks in my room, and he kind of sees some like tags and stuff on the wall. And he's like, yo, what's up? And I met Joe, and just like instantly we started hitting it off. You know what I mean? AM too. I'll talk about that a little bit. But both those guys were pivotal, man. They really influenced me. Not just with the hip hop and graffiti, but like just like how to carry yourself. You know, they stepped in with like, to the backyard, I shit you not, like the fat laces, the Adidas, you know what I'm saying? And just like,
they laced you up on kind of the vibe, right?
Yeah, just like, you know, I think I first heard like Tough Crew from JoJo. He came from Philly. So these guys, I got to give you, rewind a little bit. They came from Philly. So they had that New York, so I mean, East Coast
swag.
Yeah, exactly. So they, you know, they would show me like Philly tags, like, you know, Wickeds and shit at a young age. I never saw that stuff. You know, LA had LA style, and I'm seeing this like other shit, and I'm like, wow, this is dope. And so fast forward a little bit, actually that day when I met JoJo, we went to go piece at the NSA yard. I didn't know this until I recently talked to him. I thought it was a little bit after, but so as soon as I met that dude, he knew I was in graffiti. He's like, let's go do some graffiti. I was like, all right. It was really like my first kind of pieces outside, because before that, I mentioned my mom's like garage. She would let us paint on the back of the garage. Like, she was cool. She was like, it actually became a little yard. It became a TPS yard. Coffee would come over and do dope pieces, man, with his, you know, like this was early development for Coffee. He wrote Fools from JMU when we met him. And I think JoJo like recruited him early. And he showed me a lot of like the
characters.
Characters, but stencil tips, how to shave the cap and get the little skinny line.
Technical stuff.
Yeah, technical stuff, bro. The WD-40 straw in between the cans to mix cans. Yeah. I was like, yo, how do we make jungle green, bro? Mm-hmm. He's like, you take a little avocado, you take a little daisy yellow, you take the WD-40, and then boom, you take the pressure out of one can. You know, it was cool, just little science. Mm-hmm. But so back to the NSA yard.
You guys catch that? These guys were mixing their own original paint colors.
For real. Transferring
paint from knowing the pressures of the different cans.
Yeah.
From one can to another and making a blend. Now that's...
Ingenuity, I guess.
Ingenuity. Get Up Stickers is the ultimate bombing sticker. Made from military-grade materials, these stickers are super easy to peel and were made for putting on tanks. So you know they're going to last. So click on the link below to submit your designs. You don't want to sleep on this.
Well, because we were already like having to go get our tester tips off Fix-A-Tiff spray cans and like, you know, the clear coat. And I was already knowing from Lenz and other homies that I had to go get the fat caps off the dish cleaners. I had to go to the auto body spot and get the perfect like Rusto cap or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was all sort of like
experimentation.
Yeah. And I was also just a super mischievous kid. So I would like to go rack the shit. I think the first time I go rack like a shoe polish marker, I'm coming home and I tag with it and it's like see-through. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is it see-through? And my homie's like, dude, you got to fill it with ink, homie. Pour that shit out. I'm like, oh, okay. It's just a kid trying to, you know, learn this shit. But I was geeked by it, man. I really loved tagging, dude. Tagging was my shit. Like, and I kind of caught like the bus era late. You know what I mean? Like all my homies that got into TPS later, Gone, RTDK, you know, and Germ. Those guys were like kind of bus riders, and they like hit me to like the one-liners and like the importance of like having your tag down. So when you're, you know, when the bus rolls up, you can do it quick and be out. And just, you know, so it's kind of dope. I'll get into it that TPS had a lot of lineage with other crews. Like we started fucking with NHD and, you know, those dudes were from NHD and RTDK. And so I think that's how WIS started coming around. But, so NSA yard, I do my first piece though.
So what are some of the other crews besides TPS in the west side?
On the west side?
You mentioned NSA.
Yeah, NSA
JMU,
was dope.
PIE?
PIE was around, actually, going back in history. JoJo was from PIE for a moment, I believe. Yeah, he was from PIE, but then he got into NSA. And NSA was like, had a heavy, you know, squad. They had some dope dudes on the squad, but I think they started like kind of getting more into like gang activity, and they, you know, it was the 90s, a lot of tag banging. So I felt like he thought the crew was going not the art direction and kind of going the wrong direction, and that's why he wanted to start TPS.
So TPS was the answer to the decline of graffiti culture, right?
Sort of.
For that side?
For that crew at that time.
For those groups of guys.
Right. Yeah. And to answer your question on the west side, you know, I saw I remember this dope wall off the 10 that was like the BC crew gray.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one, right? That stood out in my mind because that character with the, you know, the feather and like, man, that was like really, really impactful. And then I think I met Risky at the Synergy building while he was painting it. And that shit really was like really impactful for the time. Yeah, he did the whole building with the RHD
big
homies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Severe, Dan, all those dudes. And I already kind of knew who the artists were on the wall because I saw the flicks. So coming into this culture, I was a fan. I didn't write. I would see the photos, and my homies were into like the documentation part, like Lenz and Vane and all those dudes. And I saw the flicks, and so some of the first flicks I ever saw were like the Hex and Slick battle, or like the Levitt's yard, or like, you know, all the shit that was at the Pavilion in Venice, and like, you know, so WCA had a presence, you know, through Risky and a couple other dudes.
Yeah,
and
they
the
were
BC
already
crew.
legendary West Side crew by that point.
Straight up. I mean, I'm a young buck coming up. They're already like legends for like
generations.
Over generations. So yeah, man, just I remember that first piece was super toy. I think I posted it. It was had no drop shadow, no 3D, just rough, but it was, you know,
it wasn't bad for a first piece. It was better than mine.
The second piece wasn't bad. The first piece was bad, but the second one, JoJo helped me finish the top because I couldn't reach, so he did like the 3Ds for me. Okay, you know that one with that you commented on, with the tiger stripes.
Well,
for
we'll
the
put
3D.
those up, both of them for the viewers.
Yeah, that was, man. Big up Joe for just helping me out through the years. You know, giving me a lot of love and mentorship. You know what I mean?
Drip King LA.
Yeah, that's my dude, man, forever. Sony, let me go back to TPS, bro. I got to tell this story because they'll be mad if I don't mention this. Sony One, TRM, NTS, MBT, right? He's in deep in the writing culture. He I think he's from the Valley, right? So Joe and Sony are on Wilshire and Bundy, and they talk about starting this crew right after that sort of NSA thing. And so I was like, you know, I hung out with Joe every day. So the next day he's like, yo, I want you to be in this new crew we're starting. So I was like, all right, game, I'm bet, you know, let's do this. And after that, man, we went ham. We really exploded on the West Side. We would hit rooftops. We would, you know, hit freeways. I mean, it got to be like a lot of energy that just exploded, you know, because we started building the squad. We got Coffee in early. Coffee and Gotcha came in. Trio was around too. Trio was Gotcha's little brother. Jigs came around, but later, first actually to kind of like give you the accurate history, before we got in all the dudes that I'm about to mention, we had this dude Effect in the crew, this dude Adris who wrote Spectre, and you know, like I think there was a time where this dude Spin from New York, TC5, came out here and we painted Uni High School, like as a gig or something. They were filming a movie, and so we painted the entire hallway of Uni High, lockers and everything. I got flicks, I'll show you. Just with Spin, you know, he's the one who lined up the gig, and like,
wait, that doesn't make sense. Then what happened? Did they have a contract with Uni High where they'll clean it up afterwards?
I was wondering about that, but they're just like, don't hit the lockers.
Oh,
so we can clean. You know, they want to. We hit the just all down the hallways above the lockers on the stairs. It was dope.
Yeah, whatever they could buff out afterwards.
I wish I'd remember the name of that movie, dude. It was dope. So that really kind of like, you know, got us like trying to do more pieces because we were into bombing, you know. We like tags and throw ups and getting up. And I remember Joe had this little Toyota. He would pick me up. The shit had tags all up in the inside, like no interior lining in the car. It was just tags.
Wow.
I was like, shit, man, this dude's a real b-boy, you know. We would just mob around West LA. We ended up hooking up with some other homies that were like not really graffiti writers. This dude Stoke from Westwood, and like, you know, we'd hang out. We just like you know, I think it became more about like parties and stuff, and we were always trying to like, you know,
because you're a DJ.
Yeah.
Let's talk about DJing, okay? Because you got to the point where you were even doing gigs and stuff. Could you talk a little bit about DJing and the DJ culture?
Yeah, that's fast forwarding way long, but like I was already into the record collecting.
Okay.
I didn't start really DJing until I graduated from high school, and I had to sell my drums to buy turntables. Because really I was going to school, and I can't take my whole drum set with me, you know what I'm saying? So I had the records, I had some records, and I was like, shit, I'm gonna buy me some Technique 1200s, you know what I mean?
What was your specialty, mixing, or did you do the little tricks like the scratching
honestly,
and all that?
I couldn't. I'm not coming off like I was a dope DJ. I was a collector.
Oh,
I was just
got
a
you.
music appreciator. And so when I got those turntables, I took the same rhythms, the patterns I learned, the paradiddles and all that shit from drumming, and sort of applied it to cutting.
So you're a mix master almost, right?
I became like, check it out, really modestly, I'm good. I'm okay at mixing. I can mix records. I could scratch, but it wasn't my total focus. But I did use it as like an expression, a hobby. It even became a job at one point down the line. I would do a lot of gigs, but just kind of talking about the early years, it became a thing to like really seek out these break records, you know? So think about like, you know, the shit that we loved at the time, Run DMC. All right. What's that Peter Piper record? That's that Mardi Gras from Bob James. Let me go find doubles of that so I can, you know, backspin that and start getting loose. And that's when I really start practicing, you know? So we would seek out these doubles. And as soon as I found out like shit, like Ultramagnetic MCs, one of my favorite rap groups of all time, I found that Joe Cocker Woman to Woman record. And I was like, oh shit, that's that Ultramagnetic. Or sometimes I'd just be going through a record and hear the sample that I already knew, you know? A lot of my shit back then was like, you know, like Boogie Down Productions. I love Boogie Down Productions. All the Juice Crew stuff, Big Daddy Kane, the, you know, the Biz Marquis, and you know what I mean? But I really started focusing on graffiti. I wasn't really that into DJing. I used it as a hobby, you know what I mean? And I also thought, like, damn, like, I can't master both of these. I kind of have to focus on one. So I did focus on the art, but I felt like they kind of played off each other. And really what it is, as I've kind of described, I came into graffiti through hip hop in a sense. Like I was into rock and shit in the early years, but the energy that was like of my day was like all that shit was coming out, you know, like 93. Imagine all the albums that came out in 93. If you go search hip hop albums, it was like Wu-Tang, Black Moon, you know, all that stuff. It really kind of like Tribe, De La, you know. I got really infatuated, a record fiend. I'm more about the collecting, you know what I mean? So to this day, I'll give you guys a picture of my wall-to-wall record collection, floor to ceiling. It's been like, you know, kind of many years of getting these things together. I had them in storage, and now they're, you know.
All right, Fresh. We're gonna just to keep things moving along because there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, totally.
Let's transition now to the mid '90s. You know, UTI has always been a crew that I've always tried to keep it balanced with different, you know, inclusive of writers from all over different parts. In the mid '90s, I felt that we didn't have as many West Side people in, and we, you know, and I had a cool relationship with the BC, so we had gotten in some of the BC guys, Di and Clay and them.
Yeah.
SGP. And then Coffee and JoJo were also the first to join, and they were part of TPS.
Yeah.
Later on, they pushed for you. They said, we got this good youngster, you know, and everything. And so, you came into the fold and everything. So let's talk about, like, now, you know, you start traveling to, you know, to other sides to paint with us and all that.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your expansion now in the 90s.
Okay, cool. Perfect way to start that convo is that production that started, I think it was the end of 93, beginning of 94, where UTI and TPS sort of did the whole front of Motor Yard. I remember specifically, I'll pull the photos up, but it was like a TPS production that was really the first like major production at Motor. And I remember you being there. And that was a pivotal moment. You know what I mean? I think what happened was Joe and Coffee got in UTI first, right? They asked me to be in, but at the time, a crew to me was like family. Like, these are people I trust. These are people I came up with. I wasn't comfortable with getting in a crew that I didn't know anybody in the crew. And I knew it was a monster crew. I knew it was like a vet crew, and it was a bigger crew, but I wasn't comfortable with just like being recruited. I really wanted to kind of hone in on TPS and give it the respect I thought it deserved. But what I think I told you was, if you remember this, I was like, you know, I want to hang out with you guys. I want to paint with you guys. And organically over the years, I feel like I'd be honored to be a part of you guys' you know, crew and collective. But at the time, I think I was the only one who said no. And to say no to skill was kind of a big deal. Like, honestly, I felt
I respected that. You know, I remember that, and I respected that. And, you know, and over time, you got to know us, and you felt comfortable.
And I started repping the U. Yeah. For sure, man. I actually, you know, got really close to Dove and Fear. Those guys were really cool in the early years. I remember them just sharing the knowledge that, you know, I got to mention Budweiser Layup, bro. That was like our shit. We would go to Budweiser Layup, hit all the walls. You actually had a piece on the retaining wall in the tunnel. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Silver with a plum outline.
Yeah.
Sick. I was like, damn, it was the first time I was seeing silvers with like odd color outlines.
Yeah, right.
You know, but that yard is really legendary for LA. We spent a lot of time there, and I think what it was is in the 90s, our expansion on the west side is we had a yard at the top of Culver City, and it was called Top of the World. And so we would go up there and do pieces quite frequently. It was in our hood. Motor Yard became a, day-to-day.
Venice Pavilion.
Venice Pavilion was our shit. Remember that production where, I don't know who it was, but all the crews came down and painted. Someone sponsored it or something.
Yep, Spark.
Yeah, Spark sponsored it. That was pivotal.
We also did one of the earliest UTI and TPS collaborations were there.
Right. Yeah,
JoJo did a huge piece.
Yeah, and that the desert production, right?
Yeah, something like
that.
And
then you guys killed it. Unity threatens ignorance. That shit was ill. And then there's actually mentioning productions, that stalagmite production. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Off Soto. The whole yard. That was where TPS and UTI really started coming with some heat, right?
Right.
And there was that ghost piece you did in that yard was just like monstrous. And I think, what you told me early, it really made an impact is you're like, man, make your letters mean, bro. Give them some weight, make them fucking have some, you know what I mean? Some like sort of character to them. And, I think going back to that piece at Motor, I was doing my little piece. I look over and I see your big ass 2-story piece. And I'm like, it's making me feel real small right now. Like, I got to go bigger, dude. No, you remember you did like a 2-story piece, bro.
Yeah. I mean, at the time it was about, how do we make a strong impact? How do we make these letters balanced? Weights.
Right. The weight.
The weight.
You would say the bottom's got to be heavy, bro.
Yeah. Base.
Yeah. Like I would float my pieces and you would have them to the bottom. Off the wall, right? Man, there's so many walls that stick out in my head because, at that time it was just bringing a lot of unity to LA. I wasn't seeing crews really painting together. A lot of LA crews were just kind of like to themselves, and you got K2S over there, you got WC over here. Everyone's kind of their own thing, but I didn't know about the history, like the K2S, WCA.
Were you
battle.
part of the Day of the West in Belmont when all the crews painted? Which TPS was there, right?
Yeah. Well, are you referring to the THC, the hardcore that can't be stopped? That one?
No, the one after that. But I mean, either way, you want to talk about the Belmont a little bit? Something you guys memories?
Yeah. To be real, man, as a young teenager, for me on the West Side to go to Belmont was kind of a big deal, bro. Like I was young and I knew it was kind of a seedy area. I was like, shit, to do my first piece there was like, I felt like a sense of, accomplishment, dude, because it was crazy. I think I remember one time painting in there and headhunters came in and they tried to, it's a famous story. They tried to jack Crail, bro. And he chased them out. I remember looking behind me and seeing Crail chase these gangsters out with their own gun. They pulled a gun on him and he snatched it from him and fucking chased them out.
Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah. I mean, the times were wild, man. And I'm glad I focused on the art. Like coming from an art background, I really wanted to develop the style and I saw myself getting better a little bit. It's like that dedication, that time you put in, it starts paying off. And that's kind of what keeps you going. You know what I'm saying? Like,
another important part of your development, and I definitely wanted to cover this, was your connection to the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. You were one of the early guys that really clicked, and you actually became a part of the FSC crew out there. FSC.
Yep.
What does that stand for? Who are the members? And tell me about that connection with the Bay Area.
So, FSC crew, you got Giggs, Knack, Rackus, Eves, Syra, rest in peace. They're kings in the Bay. They went all city several times over. They hit the trains. They're B-boys. They rap. They made beats. I mean, it was a perfect like timing, dude. Like everything really, I met those cats and I got a reinvigorate, like I was like, wow, like they were showing me shit that they were doing on the trains that was like, wow, they're really about this like train stuff. And they were really pushing the trains. But what I wanted to mention is that Clay introduced me to Giggs because they had spent time in Chicago together. I think they went to school or they were both there at the same time. And Agent and Chase and all those dudes were around. But what was it? Yeah. Pause. I'm trying to
Bay
think.
Area?
What's that?
Bay Area, Berkeley?
Yeah, no, just that. I was trying to remember that. I'm just pulling it out of my memory bank. You introduced me to Neon. Yeah, you gave me the connect with Neon.
Okay.
And I don't know if, do you remember that? Like you were
I don't remember doing it, but I mean, Neon was my boy.
Yeah, so I think you got wind that I was moving to the Bay. First, I was going up there, and you're like, you got to link with Neonski, bro. And so I called Alex, and that was another like hit off right from the beginning. That guy basically, big up Neonski, bro, BA crew.
Big up, Neon, shout out.
For real, man. He introduced me to everybody. The whole BA crew. I met Adam, who ended up being my bombing partner in Frisco. We did daytime run-up pieces and rooftops, and we just went wild. Adam was, shout out Adam. He's also from RF now, BA crew. But that lineage with FSC was like what allowed me to like kind of level up. Like get to the next level. You know what I mean? Like as much as I loved like getting up, these dudes kind of showed me like more techniques, more structure, more of like the real writer, like end to ends, top to bottoms, and mind you, they're making albums too. Like I heard this FSC Oneness album. You got to flash it on the screen. It's a classic underground FSC album.
I saw it. I think I had it.
Yeah, it was a dope one, right?
Yeah, I think they had graffiti on the covers.
Yeah,
too.
they had that like dude meditating with all the elements around him and stuff. But big up Gigs, man, because Gigs had so much history in his head, bro. He gave me the lay of the land in Oakland and the East Bay and the Bay Area as far as like who were the vets, you know what I mean? And I actually ended up going to San Francisco State, and Spy from TDK was the art director at the school.
Shout out to Spy.
Spy, TDK, man.
Important figure out there in the Bay, great artist.
Totally, man. And he also gave me a lot of game, like just early on, and he would hire me for like gigs. Like he would say, oh, we got to do these posters for this event, or hey, can you do this gig? Or, I started doing art jobs, which I never really tried to do before, but, I found myself sort of at that time, taking on normal jobs at, retail jobs and working at Banana Republic or doing at the box office at school or whatever. I was trying to balance graffiti.
Got you. A steady income and then gigs on the side, right?
But what ended up happening was I just kind of morphed the two. I was tired of a day-to-day job, and I just said, I'm going to do this art shit and like push the art. And I sold weed all throughout college, just trying to fund the arts. But these art gigs would start coming. So I kind of got lucky, just like, being turned on to making money from the craft that we really didn't start the craft to make money at all. It's like graffiti writers, everyone knows, are the last people to get paid in this culture of hip hop. But it was like it's just something you did for the love,
But the doors started opening, and eventually you start. Actually, let's talk about some of the highlights, some of the bigger gigs you did. You did Electric Daisy Carnival before anybody, right? You were one of the first to paint for that big old event.
Shout out to Pasquale from Insomniac. He was around those early days in my backyard where I was talking about, because he was friends with my sister. And this dude grew Insomniac, who throws EDC, from a warehouse, bro. I saw him at every raves. I got to mention raves because we would go to raves like crazy, having fun and parties. That's something I could almost talk about forever because we were always going to the party. It was all about that. We'd go to the party, we'd freestyle, we'd have some liquor, some
graffiti.
Yeah, whatever on the way home, or you know what I'm saying? We're all faded up and hit some spots on the way home. But so EDC, man. Pasquale hires me. I go on tour with them.
Electric Daisy Carnival.
Yeah, that was fun. I actually
any of you newer people.
Yeah, I brought Blacklight King with me. One of the first times we went to Vegas.
Right.
So I painted at Vegas, live in front of 300,000 people. Another time I took JoJo. We painted on stage at their one of their smaller events, Beyond Wonderland or something like that, and. I'm on stage with my boy JoJo rocking blacklight pieces in front of a crowd like the shit. We're getting faded on stage. It was wild, bro. It was just fun, real fun. And so I think what I really honed in on was like, I really love this shit, bro. I have fun doing this. It keeps me young. It's my meditation. It's my therapy. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is. Now it's starting to monetize. So notable gigs like you asked, shit. I had homies that. Just growing up in LA or in the industry, or like they're like, can you come rock something for Snoop? we got this video. We need a backdrop. So cool. Rock with Snoop. One time I rocked a whole fucking set for Lil Wayne.
Fresh.
Did a Wheezy piece in black light paint too. So it's like I
Stands
have a
out.
video. Yeah, it was dope, man. It was dope because I went to the party. It was actually Lil Wayne's 30th birthday, and you know, B-Reel's there on stage. Like I'm getting all this dope footage with my pieces. But really, like, just to expand on that, I don't want to name drop, but you know, through the years, I got some like really good gigs, like not just that, but then my art started getting out there, like, and you know, I'm doing public pieces.
Well, and go ahead and name some, because one of the things is that it's nice to show some of the younger kids that through your creative passions, you can do big things and work with, you know, good clients.
Oh,
so
definitely.
Feel free to drop any names.
No, I mean, I kind of did. You could check out my website. I got some stuff on there.
Okay.
I ended up doing, you know, I was into fashion for 10 years after I graduated from high school.
Okay.
College. I studied graphic design. So as soon as I got out, I worked in fashion for 10 years.
Okay.
And I honestly got a good paying job, bro. Like a good solid 9 to 5. I couldn't hold it down for more than a year, bro. I'm a free
Some
spirit.
of the fashion companies you've done stuff for?
I did some shit for Gwen Stefani. I actually worked with like a denim company. It's not a big company, but like, you know, that's where I kind of learned the ropes of like design, Illustrator, Photoshop, all that stuff. But it was just allowing me to try different mediums and like, you know what I mean? Expand as an artist. And so
Traveling.
Yeah, traveling.
Let's talk about traveling, bro. Where have you painted? Where have you traveled to, man?
So going back to like my parents' Italian restaurant, my grandma, right? She would always go to Italy. Nonna, rest in peace. You know, she just passed 97. But she would always insist that one of her grandchildren come with her to Italy. And this was every few years she'd take a different grandkid. So I'm young, going back, rewind a couple years, and I would go to Italy. I paint my first train, bro, because I was there.
What city? Rome?
Florence.
Florence. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, I'll go to Italy every few years. And I think I studied Italian there for a little bit.
Was there graffiti already there? When you went?
Yeah. Bombed.
Okay.
I mean, not bombed, but there was a lot of like marker tags and street tags.
They do trains too, right?
Oh, straight up. So, real quick story. I'm coming home from a bar one night, kind of drunk, catching tags. And these two guys roll up on me. They're like, "Hey, man, what do you write?" And I'm like, earlier that day, I almost got ran up on by, you know, some Italians when I was tagging. I was like, "I don't write. What are you talking about?" They're like, "No, we saw you tagging. We write ends in smart from PR." And smart ended up being an A-OK, but these two graffiti writers approached me, and I let them know I'm down to paint. And that night we go paint trains. My first time in Italy, and I paint this red car. They're like, "Yo, you got 40 minutes. You got to hurry up and just in and out because the bull comes around." I was like, all right. So traveling, I really got geeked. Like to see that car pull into the subway, that's like that "this is it" moment. You know what I mean? This is it.
So you got almost like a taste of what it would have been like to paint New York cars.
Yeah, I was
you know, in a different way, but
totally. I mean, freights are dope, but they didn't have the same. You know, when you get a flick of like your train pulling in and there's people in the station, and it's like, you know what I'm saying?
It's a real live train.
Yeah, they go city to city. I started going back every couple years to try to hit some trains. And so, yeah, man, that became a thing. Like they were showing me yards where this one yard, I ain't even going to give up the spot because it's outside of Florence, but it's 2 blocks from the beach. You could hear the waves crash and you're painting trains, bro.
Pretty neat.
So I spend the night in this city and I ride the train back to the city and I'm looking for my train. I was riding the train that I painted the night before. I get off and I step off and I walk down and I'm like, oh shit. This is my piece right here.
Fresh.
But to get back to traveling, man, it kind of sparked a bug. You know, I want to just get out. That's kind of what it's about. Like, I realized I really enjoy this shit. I almost did more graffiti stepping out of my city. I felt more comfortable. You know what I mean? So that was like, man.
Okay, any other notable places you've been to?
Well, just a few years ago, I did this cross-cultural exchange program with Next Level. And they sent me to Azerbaijan, of all places, bro. Yeah. So I'm over there giving workshops, and I started a Hall of Fame in Azerbaijan.
What
bro.
town?
In Baku.
Okay, is that
the
city?
City Baku.
Is that a big city?
It's a big city. It's probably noted for being one of the architecture, capitals. Like it's an awesome city, dude. Like I think Azerbaijan means like city in flames or something, and they have this building that it's like twisting like flames. I mean, it's an amazing city.
Wow.
But just like you know, kind of give you the full rundown of getting out there in the world. I left Frisco, I came back to LA. I ended up moving to New York later.
Wow. How long did you stay there?
I lived in New York for like 4 years.
Wow.
So I was staying in Brooklyn, and had a long-term girlfriend at the time. And dude, honestly, I felt like it was like going to Mecca. Like it was like I met all the greats.
Did you paint a lot?
Oh, I painted like my ass off.
Oh, good.
And dude, I met Tracy 168. I met Is the Wiz. You know what I'm saying? Like these are dudes like I geeked out on in Subway, Subway art and stuff. Like these are our heroes, man. So yeah, that was like helped me, like you just get out, you know what I mean? Like get out of LA a little and just go paint. And it really was dope to just meet some of the heads, that I always looked up to. I actually painted alongside Keo at the Hall of Fame.
Fresh.
And that dude was just hella cool. And, I feel like,
man.
Yeah, I've developed relationships like with writers, and I feel like it should be sort of noted that this community of underground writers is like, now what I find so dope about traveling is you could go anywhere in the world and there's someone there with open arms to host you. You know what I'm saying? And I've done this several times. I've gone to Miami, New York, wherever it is. And there's writers that are like, yo, we got this wall, we got this spot, this is where you get the paint, this is the bomb spot to eat, like come through, I'm like, that's just love,
Yeah.
That's what's dope about this, man. We all part of this. It's like we start as these dudes that like get, kids that are influenced by it. And sure enough, later down the line, we're influencing the next generation and just keep on going,
All right. Well, with that being said, do you have any words of wisdom for any young writers that are out there, or just anything you want to, just kind of knowledge you want to share in general?
Man, definitely knowledge for the next generation, man. Longevity, that's something I think it should be talked about. Like, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, if you're in this for the long run. Really, the message would be, though, just follow your instinct, follow your heart, do what you love to do, be safe, you know what I mean? Don't disrespect, learn the rules in a sense, you know what I mean? If you can, get a mentor, even though it's kind of like almost passe at this point with the internet and everything, but like that really helped me. Or just practice, man. Hit that black book. Like I said, like you couldn't even step to the wall before you were nice in the book, But man, I have like just so much to say about that because, these kids are going to keep it going. And I think what it was, what really made an impact for me, as I mentioned to you earlier, was like that moment I got into WCA. Rival came up to me and was like, yo, man, we dig your style and what you're about. We want you to represent West Coast. And so that feeling that I got of like, like an older vet giving me that cosign, just like you invited me here. It's a cosign, bro. Respect to you. You know what I'm saying? But that really like pushed me. So like, that encouraging.
Well, and it's an honor that it was in a sense you were passed down a torch with WCA, because WCA is a legendary crew, and you were like, a new generation that he was putting his confidence in you.
Yeah. Big up Wiz too, because I believe he sort of planted that seed.
Yeah.
For real. I heard that.
Okay, now we're going to go into shout-outs, brother. You got any shout-outs you want to say? Oh, wait, let's talk about, you did join a recently MTA crew. And so
yes,
tell so this is like new future. We're going to be watching this.
I'm gravitated to the energy of like who's out there, a lot of my homies from my crews, WCA, RF, UTI, not UTI, but RF, TPS. A lot of these dudes are starting to retire. So I'm kind of like, I'm still amped up. I still want to paint. I still have a lot to do. I still feel like I haven't tapped in. Like I've developed a dope style, but I want to push boundaries. I want to try new stuff. I want to do digital works and just different mediums. But MTA came up recently because I was talking to Saez, and we were talking about building like a squad of piecers on MTA, and he thought it was a good addition. And I'm already down with Rezik, Appear, You know, big up fucking Ralos and Nomas, and you know, so I've developed some relationships, and man, it's dope to be part of a crew that's real active. You know, like they're up right now, so big up MTA.
So Fresh, we're gonna be looking forward to the newer things that are gonna be coming out, because it sounds like you're not done yet.
Nah, no sir, I got a lot. I feel like I need to like kind of go back to my roots, since my mom was a sculptor, and just start trying different shit. I feel like I overly obsessed myself with graffiti. I became like an addict. You know, I love coming up with new schemes, new color schemes, new connections. You know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like it's infectious. You
Like
know?
Africa Bambaataa was looking for the perfect beat, we're looking for the perfect piece.
No
right?
doubt, for real. And I'm always trying to recreate that, like that West Coast, like 88, that Ash 1 at Belmont, or you know what I'm saying? Seeing like that BC MAK
Capturing
battle.
that flavor.
That shit, you know, I think I posted a piece the other day with Design 9 and Flame cartoon. He did this like hot pink outline with the white. Oh man, I'm just saying, we trying to recreate that, what inspired us. You know what I mean?
And push it to the next level.
Yeah, and also deconstruct it. Let's break the rules a little bit. Let's have fun with this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
But shout out, man, all my crews: TPS, RF, WCA. You know.
That's
FSC right. From the Bay, MTA.
All right.
All of them, man. And that incorporates, you know, that's everybody. I ain't going to mention names, but if you in those crews, big up to you.
All right. With that being said, we're going to sign out now, and it's time for Trixter to get on this wall of fame. So thank you for joining us on this episode, and we look forward to having you as our guest on the next episode. Peace out, and God bless.
Bless.
Because time is our most precious resource. Always remember that every minute, every second, and every moment matters. So let's do our best to live a kind, compassionate, and loving life. And God willing, we'll see you in the next episode. 1.
Monstro, Rocker, Dali. The natives are restless. Yeah, I say the natives are restless. The natives are restless. Rocker, Irish science. Let's go, let's go. Yo, let's gather here a second, taking the atmosphere. As I steer this vessel like a Chevrolet Cavalier, I'm a native to this culture, chasing vultures up out of here. Fuck out of here, a lot of work put in like Vladimir. We dismissing fear. Listen here, if your loyalty shifts over clout to the point where you disappeared and disappear, you overlooked those who wrote the book. How does that work? How you a factor when there's gaps in your chapters? Let's cancel the chatter off the grid, damage your scanner, shed some light in this tavern, and hold this mic just like a lantern. I don't settle for the standard or nestle in the pasture, turn a happy camper into a snack for a pack of panthers. My pops would often reminisce on the mothership landing, and then become sad in it how the brothers disbanded over money mismanaged and traditions.